Yeah, it was great.
Hello, everybody. Ooh, look at that. We went from 0 to 14 people real quick.
Boom.
Hey, everybody coming in. Let us know where you're at and who you are, where you're watching on. If you're watching on StreamYard or YouTube or Facebook.
Love that.
Let's get some people in here for an awesome virtual wholesaling call today.
Yeah. Today, I'm really pumped about what we're going to be covering today. Today, we're going to be covering how to get started wholesaling houses from home, even if you have a full-time job. So a big question I get from a lot of people is they're asking me, Chris, can I get into wholesaling if I'm working full-time? What if I have a really demanding schedule? How can I find the time to wholesale? So today, what we're going to be doing is unlocking the secret code you need to have to be able to fit in wholesaling with your full-time job. So I'll let David do the intros here in a second, and then we'll go ahead and dive in.
I think it's a great topic because, a lot of times when I'm promoting our calls, especially when we do it in the middle of the day like this, a lot of people ask if there's going to be replays because I can't leave work. And, people have other things going on, right? They've got a full-time job, but they want to get into wholesaling. So, I think this is a great topic. So, hey, everybody coming in, drop your name and location in there. Got a couple, Erica and Barbara. How you doing? Both on the West Coast of the country.
Nice. I love the technology we have here where we can connect with people from all over the country. I mean, if you really think about it, like 20 years ago, that wasn't even possible, right? Where we could all meet together in one spot like this and connect. And we were really limited to our own areas that we're in, and getting together in person. But, as the technology continues to move forward and people start becoming more and more used to doing things online and meeting virtually, it's the wave of the future.
20 years ago, you would have been going city to city.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. And it's funny. By this time, if you would think back many, many years ago, right? You would think if you mentioned 2024 back then, you think we'd be like the Jetsons right now. We have flying cars and suitcase cars and all that.
It's coming. It's coming. Leave it to Elon Musk, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the most unique coaching calls that I had, I always like to ask people, what are you looking to do? What are you hoping the wholesaling can do for you? And he says, well, I'm hoping I can do enough deals to get a flying car. And that was a first for me. I was like, a flying car? Let's dive in. Let's take that apart a bit.
They have a few around. They're not cheap, but they have a couple. So
he's like, well, he said he had his eye on one that was like $500,000 or something like that. And I'm like, well, cool, man. Let's put your plan in place to get you that flying car.
Yeah. Flying car, man.
It's like you messing with me or you being serious?
Probably serious, right?
Yeah.
That's the era we live in now. So
yeah.
All right, guys, let's get this going. So I want to introduce our virtual wholesaling expert, Mr. Chris Logan. Chris, I'm so happy that Chris and I connected because Chris is so knowledgeable in here, and he came into Wholesaling Partners, and he's our state ambassador for Florida, but just his knowledge in virtual wholesaling, because he's been at this over 10 years. He's done over 600 deals, and he's got a 7-figure wholesaling business just working from his home office here. So if anybody's going to tell us about how you should virtual wholesale, it's Chris. So Chris,
awesome.
And let's knock it off today and really tell people how they can get into this part-time and don't have to quit their full-time job until they get this thing rolling, and then they can spread their wings and tell their boss see you later and all that stuff.
Awesome. No, Dave, thanks for that awesome introduction. I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to diving in with you guys today. One of the biggest questions that I had, as I'm sure many of you guys have that are just getting started, and even if you've been wholesaling for a little while, but you just can't seem to crack that code or crack that nut of doing enough deals to get out of your to break free from your 9 to 5, right? Some of you guys even work 2, 3 jobs. Some of you work the graveyard shift and you sleep during the day and you're like, how in the world am I going to get this thing going? So what I'm going to share with you all today is I'm going to share with you the path that I took to get out of corporate America, right? The path that you can take. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So we're going to leave nothing held back here today. I'm going to show you exactly what I did down to my daily activities every single day. So you can literally copy and paste this, put it in place, and you can take steps to jump out of your corporate job too. And the other thing that we're going to dive into, because I feel like it's a natural segue that we have when people, when I cover this topic, people are like, okay, great. So I know the path, right? I see the path that you've laid out for me to get out of my job, right? So what's that next piece, right? So when should I leave? When should I leave my job? How do I know it's the right time? You hear lots of different opinions on podcasts. Some of them are total poo-poo, and I don't want you following those, right? And others they have some truth to them, right? But I'm going to share the brutal, uncovered truth that what I believe, and I'm going to share it with you. My opinion may not be as popular as some people who are more aggressive or more risk takers, but I'm all about, hey, when it's time to leave, you want to make sure that you don't have any stress of your overhead home expenses, right? You don't want any of that when you're trying to grow a business. So I'm going to share with you the right time to leave. And so you'll know exactly what to do to get out, when it's time to leave. And so you can take this full time. So first thing that I want to do is I want to share with you how important it is for you to focus. Okay. Dave knows me, he's known me a while, and he knows that I'm very big on focus. And so I continue to hammer this, guys. Read this book. This is The One Thing by Gary Keller. He's the founder of Keller Williams, which is the largest or one of the largest real estate brokerages in the country. And he wrote this book because entrepreneurs are all over the place, right? Most entrepreneurs have their fingers in 10 different pies and they wonder why they're not getting anywhere, right? But what this book does is it helps you to focus. It helps you to align your priorities and put all of your energy into one path, right? And so each day you're asking yourself, what's the most important thing I can do today that makes everything else unnecessary, right? Some people come to the table and they first start a business and they have a to-do list a mile long. But guess what? Not everything on that to-do list has to be done today. Not everything on that to-do list is important, right? And keep in mind, if everything's important, nothing's important, right? So what that teaches you to do is it teaches you to identify the tasks that are the most important and closest to the money, so you can literally take steps on your journey in the right direction. You're not just like running in place, right? So definitely get that book. For any of you who need to know what that is, again, it's The One Thing by Gary Keller. You can get it on Amazon. Quick tip, if you go ahead and you get the Audible version, which is the listen version, and the book, get them both. Read them at the same time. It's proven that you'll retain 80% more of the information that you read if you're listening to it and you read it at the same time. So definitely do that, and watch your retain more information and know how to put it in place. So that's
something I'd like to add to that too is when you're reading the book and you're going through it and learning the strategies, implement them. 100%. Because if you don't, if you just read it and then you put it on the bookshelf, you never, you're like, oh, this is a great book, but then it's out, right? So as you're reading it, implement the things that he has.
100%. Dave, I've seen so many people do that. I know a lot of people that brag about how many books they read in a year, and they have these massive bookshelves. And like, man, you must know a lot. But they couldn't tell you they may be able to tell you 2 things from a book, and that's it, right? Yeah. But it's like, cool, you've read all that. How much can you implement? So something that I'm very big on, guys, is just like what Dave said, I like to read something and implement it. So if some of you all are thinking on this call, you're like, man, reading's boring to me. I don't like reading. So here's a little hack, okay? So if you read something that relates to something you're struggling with or going through, okay? So if you're struggling with focus, as most entrepreneurs are, you're feeling stretched thin, you feel like you're running in place and you're not getting anywhere and you're tired of that, right? And you really want to break out and become the person that you're meant to become and achieve what it is you want to achieve, then I recommend getting better with your focus. And again, this would be a good time to read this book because it's something that you can relate with. It applies to you right now. And when something applies to you right now, you're more open to want to read it. And I encourage you to think that way about every book. So when you're thinking, you're struggling in something in your life, in your business, and you're like, shoot, I'm struggling with being more organized. Well, you know what? Read a book on organization. because that is the time that your mind is going to be most open to soaking in all that information to make sure that you'll take from it what you need. And like Dave said, take action 100%. So I love that. So let's go ahead and dive in. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and do something a little unique here, Dave. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have this Remarkable 2 tablet. I don't know if you guys have seen this thing. It's awesome. It's not backlit or anything like that. It's like you're writing on paper, and it stores all of your notes. Can't live without it. It's great. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share my tablet here, and that way I can draw out my schedule. And I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to break free from corporate America here. Give me 1 second. Let me connect it to the app on my computer. Present with screen share. Boom, we are there. Now let me go ahead and share here. And I hope this isn't going to be too small when it shows. Remarkable.
We'll make it work.
Perfect.
Boom. Oh, no,
Awesome.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, so is that big enough for everybody to see? Like if I write something here, good. Okay, great. All right. So the first thing I do the first thing I did when I was working in corporate America, right? And I've been in sales pretty much all my life. And so I had a sales mentor come up and share with me something one time. I was really struggling with keeping up my schedule. My appointments were getting crazy. Like I was talking to a lot of people in my day job during the day, a lot of businesses. I used to work in a job where I would sell marketing services, small to medium-sized businesses. So like PPC, SEO, Yellow Pages advertising, all that. And I would have upwards of 15, 20 appointments in a week sometimes. And I was really struggling because like keeping up with it all, right? And before I even got to that point where I could even manage that many appointments in a week, I was sometimes struggling to do 5 to 10 a week. And it came down to my manager coming and sitting down with me and him saying, Chris, he's like, you have a lot of potential. I could see that you would absolutely crush it. He says, but we got to tweak some things about your schedule. He's like, show me your schedule, because I told him I was having a hard time keeping up with my week. And he goes, well, there's the problem right there, right? He's like, have you ever heard of time blocking? And I was like, no, I've never heard of time blocking. Talk to me about it. And so he broke down a strategy and he redid my calendar for me. And that one meeting that I had with him, it literally changed my life. Because guess what? I started to look at not only what I could do in work, which now allowed me to do 15, 20 appointments a week. And I went from being like a middle of the road salesperson at the company to one of their top salespeople, right? Just from implementing this one thing. And I said, man, if this had this significant of an impact on me here at this job, I bet you this would help me crush it with wholesaling, right? To break out. And so what I did is I not only applied it to what I was doing at my job, but I then took it and I applied it at building my own business. And the results were amazing. It helped me focus. It helped me get on the right path. It helped me make sure that I did the right things every single day. And I didn't deviate from that. And so I could make progress every single day. Okay. So time blocking is huge. So where it comes down to, I'm going to show you, I'm going to draw out the average schedule here that someone has. So we're going to do 9 o'clock. We're just going to do a 9 to 5, right? Because that's the standard time, right? So 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Okay. 5 o'clock. Now, so this is the schedule that most people have, right? So how time blocking works is what you want to do is you want to identify specific times that you can do certain things, certain breaks in your schedule where you can 100% focus on just one thing that you need to do, right? So one of the things I realized is I said, okay, before I go to work in the morning and I get ready and I can have my breakfast, at that point, I can do something that doesn't involve me calling people, right? Because it's pretty early in the morning. It's probably like 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. You can't call people at that point. So what can you do to set yourself up for the day? Well, in the morning, what I would do is I would either organize my list for the day, my calling lists, right? Prepare those, because most wholesalers begin a day without knowing what they're going to do next. And that is the kiss of death for an entrepreneur, right? When you do this thing full time, you can't wake up in the morning not knowing what you're going to do that day. because there's a good chance that you're never going to hit your goals if that's how you're running your business, right? So first thing I would do is organize my list. I put together the list of the sellers that I was going to reach out to that day, or the list of buyers, right? The next thing I would do is I would also grow my cash buyer list. So maybe if my lists were already organized and I did that at the end of the day, the previous day, I would focus on growing my cash buyers list, right? So what I would do is I would shoot messages out to people on Facebook. I join all the Facebook groups, the local Facebook groups from my area. And then I would look at buyers in that group that commented on posts, said they were interested in buying certain properties that other wholesalers had. And then I'd shoot out all my DMs around that time, right? Because entrepreneurs were up early, right? Most entrepreneurs are working a full-time job anyway. And so everybody's up early, right? But it's not as annoying as like a phone call that early in the morning, right? So shoot out your DMs. I organize my list. Then what I would do is I got a lunch from 12 to 1, right? So from 12 to 1, what I would do is I would focus on doing two things. I would either call back leads, call back seller leads. Okay, now you got to eat, right? So I crammed down my food for like 10, 15 minutes, right? Because I wanted to have as much time as I could to make calls and things like that, right? So I call back seller leads. So if I was doing some type of marketing, like direct mail or bandit signs or something back then where I'd have calls coming in, I'd call back all those leads, right? Or if I had sellers I had to follow up with, I'd call those. That would be my first priority. But once I ran out of those, I would cold call. Okay, so I would cold call during that time from 12 to 1. All right, I'd get in as many calls as I could. 1:30, I was back at the office and rocking and rolling again. So what have I done here so far? At the beginning of the day, I started with my business, right? So it gave me more peace, because one of the biggest pains that people have when their eyes become open and their minds become open to the life entrepreneurship and living the financial freedom lifestyle and all that, right? They start thinking about how, man, I'm getting up and I'm going to work, paying the man again, right? So the thing is that if you can start your day with something that's building your future, right? You feel much better about your day. You're like, okay, great. I got in my one thing this morning. Now I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to earn a check so I can keep consistent income coming in and pay and provide for my family. But guess what? Lunchtime, that's my time, right? So from 12 to 1, I was making calls, calling back leads, making traction, right? Then what I would do is after 5 o'clock, I was done at 5. I'd get home probably by 5:30, 6 o'clock. At that point, I would have I'd have some dinner. So I'd have dinner pretty quick, right? And then guess what? From 6 o'clock to 7:30, that right there was my sacred time. So what I would do is I would have that time to build my empire, right? I'd take that time to focus on building my business. And I ran this schedule for a very long time. Now, some of you might say, well, Chris, that's, I go to the gym too, or I work till 7 and that schedule's not realistic for me and stuff. And you had it easy because you could get off at 5. Guys, I'm leaving out a very important fact here, that I would travel a lot in my sales position, and I would drive to territories that were like 2.5 hours away. And sometimes I'd make these calls from a hotel, like a hotel lobby if I had to, right? And then other times I'd drive back home at like 8 o'clock at night. Heather and I would throw out some bandit signs. That's what we used to do back then. And then I'd get up in the next morning and drive back to territory 2 hours away. I did whatever it took, right? So a lot of people are interested, but they're not committed. There's a really big difference. So the wholesalers that are successful are the ones that are committed. The ones that are not successful are the ones that are interested. Because if you're interested, you're going to find an excuse. But if you're committed, you're going to find a way, right? So it's really important, come heck or high water, that you put a schedule in place like this, that you can follow it and you can commit to it 100%. Now, here's something, guys, that's really, really important. This time that you set aside, right? Like this 12 to 1 time, this 6 to 7:30 time, this time is your sacred time. That means no other distractions, okay? So in 12 to 1, if you're calling on a dialer on a computer, you are turning off your phone and setting it aside for that time. The world's not going to fall apart in it, okay? It's just not, okay? So if you have kids and you have to watch your phone just in case of emergencies, I understand that. I got a 9-month-old. And so, maybe turn your phone over and just have it on vibrate. So that way it doesn't ring and distract you, but you can stay focused. But the biggest thing, guys, I'll tell you is staying focused, because if you have this time blocking, let's say you put this time in from 12 to 1, from 6 to 7:30, and you don't stick to that time. So let's say you spend that time scrolling through, you make a couple calls, you scroll through social, you make a couple calls, you like a few things, right? If you've ever said to yourself, you don't have the time, okay, I want you to go on your phone. Well, it's going to defeat the purpose of time blocking, number one. But if you go on your phone and you look at how much time you spend on Facebook, for those of you who are saying you don't have any time, there's your time right there, okay? So stick to your time blocks. You do nothing else outside of the one thing that you set aside to do during that time, right? And then what you can also do, I'm going to share with you guys another ninja hack right here, okay? So when you have 2 ninja hacks, actually, number one, let's say you have 2 hours to make calls, right? Or you have 2-hour window, okay? So what you want to do is you want to work for an hour, so 60 minutes, and then you want to take a 10-minute break just to get up, stretch, right? Cold calling can be it can be one of those things, you do it for an hour, you're like, all right, I need to get up and stretch for a minute, right? So you do that, and then you get back to it. And then that's your time block. So 60, 10, 60, right? So that's the first thing. So that'll prevent you from feeling exhausted and feeling like you can't do it, or feeling like you just need to stretch for a minute, get up, walk around, keep the energy pumping. Motion, where emotion goes, energy flows, or motion creates emotion. I think it's an old sales saying, right? So that's that. And here's the thing: for some of you guys are saying, "Well, Chris, but I get home at 7 o'clock. I get home at 6:30, right? How am I supposed to make cold calls when you really shouldn't dial people past 7:30?" And I didn't mention that before, guys, but you really don't want to make cold calls or call sellers past 7:30. They don't like it. You're gonna make people very upset. So don't do it. So what do you do if you get home at 6:30 or 7, right? Couple things that you can do. The first thing, I actually just had a coaching client tell me today that based on a suggestion that I gave her, she was able to take it to her boss, switch her schedule up, and gain an extra hour in the evening, right? So her problem was she really didn't have, she would work, I think, from 10 to 7 or something like that. So all she did is she asked her boss, can I come in a bit earlier, right? And take my lunch the last hour of the day. So now she gets off at like 4 o'clock, right? And so from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock, she stays at her work, but she can go in the side room that nobody uses and she can bang out her cold calls, right? So that's really thinking outside the box, guys. You got to do that. You can't just keep your feet planted and be like, oh, my situation's hard. You don't understand. I don't have the time. I got X, Y. Guys, you can either have results or you can have excuses, but you can't have both, unfortunately. It's just not how it works, right? So the second thing you can do is, we live in the United States, right? So if you're in, let's give you an example. Let's say you live in the East Coast, right? And it's, you don't get off of work until 6 o'clock, 6:30, right? So normally you'd only have an hour to dial, when realistically you have time spent driving home and all that stuff, right? So say you have 30 minutes to dial. What if you picked a territory, coming back to virtual wholesaling, and the reason why I love this, guys, let's say you picked a territory that was in a time zone that was 2 or 3 hours behind you. Boom, there's your time. So you're sitting here thinking, man, I don't have any time. I shouldn't call past 7:30. Chris is saying that. Yep, that's my thing. I can't do it, right? No, you no longer have that out anymore, because what you can do is you can hop to an area, like I said, that's 2 or 3 hours behind you, even an hour, 2, 3 hours behind you, and boom, there's your time. So when it's 7:30 here, it's 4:30 there or 5:30 there, and you have that 2-hour window. So trust me when I say this, guys, if you put this time blocking plan in place and you commit to these activities every day, as a wholesaler, you should be doing 2 things at any given point in time. You should be talking with cash buyers or talking with sellers, and that's it, right? Nothing else. Don't fiddle faddle in your CRM. Go ahead, Dave.
Just what you have on the screen right here. If and you know this from being an entrepreneur, and I do too. If because we've got a lot of things going on, and I'm building the community, and I'm doing a website, and I'm talking to people, trying to get people come on, all that. So we got a lot going on. But if you're trying to start a wholesaling business, you don't have all that. You just can focus, like you said, buyers and sellers, right? And if you
Sure.
take 3 hours or 2.5 hours a day, like you have on the screen here, and carve it out, block out everything else, and just do that, you're going to do as much as some people do if they're doing it on a full-time job, right?
100%.
Because you're so laser focused on those 3 hours or 2.5 hours that you're going to complete more in that time than somebody does, that does this full time, because they're running here and they're doing this and they've got to, do something with their website and blah, blah, blah. Shove all that aside and just focus on the core: calling sellers, calling buyers.
That's it. 100%, Dave. I couldn't agree with that more. Exactly. Most people are very unorganized, and people ask me all the time, is wholesaling saturated? I say, no, wholesaling is not saturated at all. Actually, there's barely any good wholesalers out there, right? Only like 1% of wholesalers are actually good, because most wholesalers are not consistent. They don't track their numbers. They are not really professional. They act like they want the money more than helping the seller, and it kills their chance of success. So when you have someone like you guys going in there, and I know all of you are like this because you're on this called Bettering Yourself with Dave and I today, when you treat the sellers with respect, you literally try to become a problem solver and help them out of a hard situation. And you know what, guys, you can help people and make a fantastic income at the exact same time. So this will allow you to do that. Now, some of you might be looking at this and be like, well, Chris, I notice that you don't have somewhere here to respond to all these buyers that you've been messaging here in the morning, right? I caught you there, right? So here's the thing. What you want to do is you're going to send those messages out, right? So you can go ahead and respond back to those people first the very next day before you do your next round of messaging, or you can respond to them throughout the day. Like maybe you get up to use the restroom or something, you leave for a minute, and boom, 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 respond to people, done deal. And I'm going to give you guys a quick tip here on that. So you want to streamline what you're doing as much as you possibly can. And so if you have a string of responses that typically you're seeing are the same responses you're giving to cash buyers all the time and sellers all the time, save those responses. And like you guys got an iPhone or you got like a cell phone, save those responses in your notes app, and then just copy and paste those answers to the person for all of the future calls. Stuff like that, where you can shave a minute here, shave a minute there. I mean, it really adds up over time. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie with Will Smith. He's on the phones, entrepreneur on the phones. Pursuit of Happiness. There you go.
Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, I couldn't think of it.
So there's a part in that movie that's really valuable where he's really his schedule, like the amount of time he can dial is much less than everybody else, because he would have to leave work early because he was homeless, and he would need to make it to the church to be first in line so him and his son would have a place to sleep. Okay. This movie is phenomenal for inspiration. Okay. So what he did is, in the movie, he said, I came up with the idea and found out that, because I didn't have as much time as everybody else, I had to do twice as much as they could do in half the time. So what I realized is that I didn't put the phone down and hang up in between each calls, and I had the phone on my neck and I could just hit the hang up button and dial the next call. He's like, I had an additional 2 hours a day, or something like that, 2 hours a day that I could dial and be productive, right? So he's picking and slicing every little bit of time that he can to put that into building his business, right? And then eventually the real character in the movie went on to, sell his financial services firm for millions of dollars, became wildly successful. But he had the story that a lot of you guys have, right? That a lot of us have, right? You're working like crazy in your 9 to 5. You may have financial pressure. You may have people that depend on you. You may have family that you got to keep a roof over their head, and maybe times have been tough, right? But this is not your time to back off. This is your time to lean in, right? And do whatever you can, because success is your duty and your obligation, right? To be a provider, and that's what you have to do.
Chris, another thing that I would suggest people to do is download a good phone call recorder on your phone. Yeah. Right. And then if you're talking to somebody on the go, right, you're driving, you don't have to pull over
Mhm.
and take notes, right? You talk to them, record it, and then later, after the kids go to bed, you can go back and make notes from your
Love that.
calls, right? So if you're talking to buyers or sellers and you're talking to a buyer and you're saying, hey, what's your criteria? Where are you buying? What cities are you buying in? And all that, it's just recorded. And later you can go down and, jot it all down. But also a
100%.
good time-saving tip.
Yeah, and with a lot of the new tools that are coming out with AI and stuff, I mean, there's apps like that you can download that will literally take notes on your conversation and everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy, like what's coming out. But yeah, so guys, like the point of what Dave and I are sharing with you here today is there's always a way. You may feel shackled, you may feel chained, like your situation is different because of X, Y, and Z. But don't believe that story that you're telling yourself, because that story is designed to keep you in your comfort zone. Right? It's easier to sit here and say, I can't do it because of X, Y, and Z, than to accept the fact that you can do it, right? And you can actually have everything it is that you actually want, right? So I see some comments going here, leveraging time change. That's innovative. So yeah, so you got to really think about all these things, guys. This is super important. Now, what I'd like to do, Dave, if that's okay with you, I'd like to get to when to know when it's time to leave your job. How do you know when the right time is to leave? So we can talk about that, and then I can leave some time for questions if that's
Okay.
that's good with you.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so the big question that I get from a lot of people who are just getting started in real estate, they're like, Chris, so my question is, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing here. A lot of people say, well, Chris, when is the right time to leave my job? I've heard on certain podcasts and coaches and YouTubers that say, bro, you do your first deal and you hit that eject button and you leave, right? I've seen people do this, and I've seen like catastrophic consequences from it, right? So It sounds good. You get all pumped up. Maybe you do a $5,000 deal, a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, even $30,000 deal or more. And you're like, bye-bye, 9 to 5. I don't need that, right? No, guys, don't do that. That's not responsible to do. Some people have better risk tolerance than others, right? I'm a pretty risky guy, but I'm also the type of guy that says I got to be responsible, right? So what I want you all to do, okay, is when you're about to, how to know when you're about to leave, when it's right time to leave your corporate job, you need a few things in place. So the first thing that I typically recommend is having anywhere from 6 months to 12 months of savings to cover your household overhead, right, for a year, if you were to leave, right? So that's the first check mark. Now, before you say, Chris, well, that's a lot, that's going to take time, that's not sexy. Trust me, approaching it like this, you're going to thank me when you get here, okay? And if you can see how much you can make in wholesaling, it really doesn't take that long to do this, right? Especially if you're smart with your money and you save what you make, right? Don't go out and blow all the money that you make on vacations and TVs and stuff. Guys, we're setting up your future here. Buying stuff like that is just going to keep you where you are for longer, maybe even worse, right? So what you want to do is have 6 to 12 months, right? Again, the average wholesale deal that I've seen is anywhere between $15,000, $20,000. Sure, you can have some that are less, 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, but you can also have more. But the average across the board, from what I've seen, is 15 to 20, right? So think about that. If your bottom line, let's say you would need, $100,000, right, to be able to leave your job because that's what you make in a year, right? If you make $50,000, whatever the case is, that's what you need to have saved up in an account in cash so you can tap into it if you need to for emergencies, right? The second criteria that you need to have, okay, is you want to make sure that you're doing deals consistently. So in other words, if you do a deal in January, right, and let's say you're averaging a deal a month, right, or 2 deals a month, do you know when your next deal is going to come? Do you know what marketing channel it's going to come from? Do you know how many leads it takes you to get a deal? How many offers it takes you to get a deal? Do you know all those things, right? So is it predictable? Do you know you got a deal this month and you know you're going to get it next month based on how the pattern of how things have gone over the last 6 to 12 months, right? So if you know where your next deal is coming from and you're doing deals consistently and you have 6 to 12 months of savings in the bank, that is when you can officially hit the eject button and you can step into this new lifestyle of financial freedom that you have and start building a fantastic future That's what I did, right? So before some of you say, Chris, that's not possible. That seems like such an overwhelming amount. I make $50,000 a year. So, 50,000, I've never even had $5,000 in my bank account. You can do it, right? You can do it. You just have to be disciplined with it, because here's the thing. Get the spending under control right now while you have a job. It's better to figure that out now than when you leave and have a real problem, right? So there's a lot of discipline that comes along with that too, because you're going to have this big chunk of money sitting in the bank and you're like, oh, I can do whatever I want. No, that's your reserve funds, right? That's your reserve funds to support your financial freedom lifestyle. So where if you have a rough month or rough 2 months, you know what? The lights stay on, everybody's happy, and you can move forward.
Yeah.
So that's what I really recommend.
If you've got, and again, it's not sexy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guys, if you're starting your own business and you want to be an entrepreneur and do something like this, you have to learn to do this. It's just responsible. You don't want to put your family at risk. You don't want to, you don't want to be homeless, right? You want it to work. So learning to be responsible, to, get your financial house in order, know what you're spending a month on, housing, on food, on entertainment, whatever it is, come up with a monthly number. You're like, I live right now comfortably on this number, and then use that number times 6 times 12, whichever you want to use, and do it the right way, right? Don't do a deal, get some money and go, you know what, I'm quitting my job and I'm just going to do this. And then you go 3 months and don't do another deal. And you're like, oh crap, right? Yeah. It was, I got lucky once, right? Know that you're doing deals consistently. You've got the money in the bank, and then do it.
100%. And guys, all of this stuff that we're talking about here today, and the stuff that I'm sharing with you about this plan to exit corporate America, if you want to ask me how I figured this out, I figured this out the hard way, guys. So the first time I did my first deal or 2 deals, and then I left my job, right? And guess what? I ran out of money, and I'm like, oh shoot, the rent's still due, right? I got all these expenses. So I went out and hurried and found another job, right? To stabilize my situation. It was a commission. It was a role where I was making a base salary plus commission, right? And so that way I could say, okay, now I'm stable again. Things are good. I can, work hard, make more money because I'm on a commission role too. At the same time, I can really focus on building my real estate business, right? And that's what really, really helped. So take it from someone who's experienced. Like I did that. I left my job. I was jumping up and down. And then when the money runs out, right, or deals aren't as predictable as you think they are, then you're like, oh, shoot, right? And you got to move quick. So that's what I'd recommend. So don't leave your job until you're making as much money in wholesaling, if not more, than you are in your job. And then from there, you can officially leave when you have, like I said, the 6 to 12 months saved.
Very solid advice. Very solid advice. Don't we learn all the best lessons by screwing up, don't we?
Oh man, some of the best lessons. There's a saying that says, life gives you the. Oh, it's a great saying. It'd be perfect right here. It's life gives you the test first and the lesson later.
Yeah, right.
Right. So you get the test first and then the lesson later. So
right. But listen, don't learn this yourself. We're telling you right now.
Yeah.
First deal, don't quit your job. All right.
Yep.
Let's get some repetition going. Let's get some consistency going.
Yeah.
Then it's time. Right?
Yep. If anyone tells you like to quit your job after your first wholesale deal, that's just marketing, guys. Don't buy that.
Yeah.
So let's go and answer some questions.
Guys,
loaded up here.
Shoot some questions, guys. Let's get some stuff in here. Let's see. Scrolling down. I think everybody's just telling us where they want. They again, that book was The One Thing. If you want to write that down. What do we got here? Come on, guys. Give Chris some questions about virtual wholesaling. That's why we've got him here.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. I'm at your disposal today. I mean, if you want, Dave and I can leave early and we can, hit the beach or whatever.
Yeah, man. It's a pretty day out here in Florida, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here we go. We got one for you.
Okay, perfect. No, this is great. Have I tried hiring a VA to make calls? How much time goes into supporting a VA? No, that's a really great question. And this is an area that I have a lot of experience in. So I actually own a call center in Bangladesh where we have our own callers that we've got over there. So I have a call center manager that runs that. And not only does he recruit for my team, but he also recruits for my coaching clients as well. And so I have hired a VA to make calls. So I will tell you that not every VA is made equal when it comes to this. There's a lot of call centers out there that are not very good. There's a lot of VAs out there that are not very good. But if you can find a quality VA to make calls for you, it can be very, very good for you, right? So one thing I'll tell you, though, and I firmly believe this, right? So most people are not in a position to hire a VA to make calls for them right off the bat. Most people are not in that position, right? Because most people haven't done a deal before. Most people haven't got on the phone, talk to sellers before themselves, and they're kind of looking for the easy way out, to get out of the discomfort of cold calling. And so they want to put a VA in place. So I recommend you cold calling and getting a deal yourself first. And then once you get a deal, then outsourcing it. Unless it's like an extreme situation where you literally have zero time and none of the suggestions I've made work. And that's the only way that you can be consistent. But just know it may take you a little bit of time to get traction because most people, when they first start on the phones, they suck, right? But it's okay because everybody sucks at everything when they first start, right? But you take steps every single day and you get better and better and better and better, right? So yeah, so we've had up to 10 VAs on our team making calls. Cold calling's our jam. That's how we generate all of our leads and how we close all of our deals. So as far as time supporting a VA, what I did is I made calls first. Then I hired 3 people. One of them ended up staying out of those 3. And that one was my best cold caller. In my top month, we had 22 houses under contract. And he was so good, matter of fact, that we actually ended up promoting him to become our call center manager. And then he oversees a team of VAs.
I want to. Brian said I was afraid you were going to say that. Brian, here's the thing, and I've seen a lot of people do this, and I'm sure Chris has too. People don't want to make cold calls. They're like, oh, it makes my tummy hurt, and and I don't like it, right? Because they've never done it before. So they go out and hire VAs to do it, and either get a crappy VA, or worse, they get a good VA that starts getting leads lined up for you, but then you don't know how to handle the lead. So all those leads go to waste, right? 100%. And you're just pouring money into a system that you're not already prepared to handle, right? Yeah. So make the calls, get used to the calls, get used to talking to sellers and going through that, are they motivated, and all that stuff before you get to VAs, because if you find a good VA, and they start creating those leads, and then you don't know how to handle the leads, and you're just burning money.
You're burning money, and that can get really dangerous, guys. Especially if you only have a gap of like $500 a month in margin that you can invest in your real estate business to grow it, and you're eating through that, and you're not converting leads. It can get expensive. So that's why cold calling. I mean, you can get started for so ridiculously cheap. You can call people from your Google Voice phone number, or your phone. You can use a dialer if you really want to reach a lot of people. Like usually like $139 a month, you get a list, you upload it to it, boom, you're off to the races making a ton of calls, right? So keep in mind a couple things. First of all, most people have call reluctance when it comes to cold calling. They don't like cold calling. And the reason why is because they're like, what if I mess up? Who cares if you mess up? You're not going to run into these people at the grocery store. You're not going to be there picking out tomatoes. And they're going to be like, hey, you're the person that called me and you screwed up on the phone. The other thing, guys, is that just the fact that you've been through like a call like this, or you've had some type of real estate training, guys, more than 95% of the sellers that are out there, even the ones that own a home, even if you're renting, right? And the reason I say that is because it's just fact, right? Most of these sellers have zero real estate education outside of buying their own home. And so you're put in a unique position where you can really help them. So don't worry about you mess up. They're not even going to know that you mess up. And if you mess up, hang up, on to the next call. Next, no big deal, right? That's it. It's not a big deal. Cold calling is not as big of a deal as most people make it out to be. Because again, you're never going to see these people again. And if you mess up, they're not even going to know. And here's the thing. For some reason, internally, us humans are wired to make mountains out of molehills, right? We think something's a much bigger deal than it actually is, right? We beat ourselves up over it. We're like, oh man, you suck. You made that call. I can't believe you said that. And you stuttered there and blah, 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 blah. Or you slipped up on your words and the seller made fun of you. The seller cursed you out. Who are you? Why should you make calls, right? We say these things to ourselves, which is not very nice, right? So don't talk to yourself any way that you wouldn't talk to a friend. But understand that things are not as big of a deal as you make them. And this mountain that you're making up in your mind, the seller, they probably already forgot about you. It's not a big deal,
right.
So
they went back to Netflix and some weirdo on the phone, right?
Yeah, they're like, oh, that was annoying. Okay. Anyway, honey, what do you want for dinner? Like, it's not like that's what you're dealing with here. Right?
Yeah, they're not sitting around all night talking about you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one from Derek here.
How do you set up people in the areas boots on the ground? Okay, so this is really important as a virtual wholesaler. You got to have boots on the ground, right? This is how you're going to get pictures taken of your properties. This is how you're going to get buyers inside the property so they can access them, right? So boots on the ground are important. So what we do is we partner with local realtors. And the reason why I love realtors is because, and realtors are not the devil. You may have heard that, wholesalers not liking realtors, but realtors are amazing. Realtors know how to take pictures of properties, right? Number one. And then realtors also understand how to do showings, right? Number two. And realtors also have unique local market knowledge so they can get you up to speed in a new territory really quickly because they can get you up to speed really quickly because they know an area better than you do coming in, right? We've had realtors say, hey, Chris, you guys got this at a fantastic price. It's a new technology complex being built 2 blocks over, and all the values in this area are going to go skyrocketing. So this house is going to go like yesterday, right? So we like local realtors. You can find them in local Facebook groups, and you're just looking for an investor-friendly realtor. We typically find it's the type of person that is either new to being a realtor, or people that are about to retire from being in real estate. So investment-friendly realtor, find them in Facebook groups, and that is your boots on the ground. And you pay them anywhere from $50 to $100.
There you go. I think this is really kind of the same question, right?
How does the walkthroughs work when wholesaling virtually, meaning seeing the property? Yeah, so you have your realtor stop by the property. They'll take 50 to 100 photos, upload them to like a Dropbox or Google Drive, send them to you, pay them, you're on the way. When it comes to showings, you set up the showing. The realtor oversees the showing. Their main job is to be offense with the seller and make sure the buyers don't talk directly to the seller.
There you go. This might be for a different call. So.
Yeah, I could fire off something real quick, but I think this would be good. So we'll cover this in another call, but I'll touch on it, what it's like. So it's very simple. So you have 7 seconds to capture a seller's attention when you're making cold calls, right? And if you don't capture their attention at 7 seconds, they're going to hang up on you, right? You're not going to get the lead. So what do you say? You got to say who you are, how you can help them, and why you're calling, right? So who you are, why you're calling, and how you can help them. Those are the 3 things, right? So I may start a cold call like this. Hey, I hope I have the right phone number. Is this John? Yeah, hey, this is John. Who is this? Well, hey, my name's Chris. You don't know me, but I'm a local buyer in the area and came across your property, 123 Main Street. Want to see if you consider a cash offer for the property there. Done. So what did I do right there? Less than 7 seconds. I said who I was, why I was calling, and how I could help him. And at that point, he can decide if he wants to move forward or not. And then what we'll do is on future calls, we'll talk about what to say after that. So
yeah, I'm going to grab the link for our full virtual wholesaling call we did, and I'll drop it here in a minute. So, all right. We got a question from Cheryl here. Why do so many people, whether they're a wholesaler or FSBO, say no to wholesalers? Is it because of daisy chains?
Oh, this is a great question. So the reason why people say this, and I'm guessing you're seeing a property advertised in a Facebook group, and it says in the post, no wholesalers, or maybe it'll say FSBO, no wholesalers. Okay. So typically, wholesalers will say no wholesalers. Sellers don't know what a wholesaler is. Okay. So if it's a wholesaler selling the property, he's saying no wholesalers because he doesn't want to wholesale a wholesale deal, right? So he wants to work with a direct end buyer. So that being said, wholesalers think that other wholesalers are the competition, but it couldn't be more wrong. Right? Because if you're a wholesaler and you have a good buyers list, you can provide a ton of value to another wholesaler. You can help them sell a deal where they wouldn't otherwise sell it themselves by doing a joint venture, right? So this goes back to something I was talking about earlier in the call, how someone said, oh, is wholesaling saturated? No, wholesaling is not saturated. Only 1% of wholesalers are actually good. That's when I come back down to this right here. People say no wholesalers because, again, there are very few good wholesalers. So if you can be a great wholesaler, I'd still contact these people. I don't care if they say wholesalers, because I'm a good wholesaler, right? They just haven't had a chance to work with me yet, right? So I'd still reach out to those people. I ignore them.
Yeah, reach out to them and say, hey, I saw your post. Just introduce yourself. Say, hey, if you're having a problem moving the property, I got a good buyers list that I'm building, I can help with it. Or if you've got anything else, in the future, whatever, still reach out to them. And
yeah, absolutely. Them. And you really want to, like Dave said there, you really want to emphasize that you have a great buyers list, because with these people, you got to put yourself in their shoes. They're thinking, what is a wholesaler's biggest fear? Let's get some engagement here. Drop it in the comments. I know the answer here, and I know Dave does, but drop it in the comments. What's a wholesaler's biggest fear? You got a property under contract. What's your biggest fear?
Everybody drop it.
Drop it like it's hot.
Drop your answers.
If we don't get something here in the next 3 seconds, then
come on.
I'll go ahead and answer.
We got over 20 people in here. Somebody's got it.
Okay. So,
here we go.
Oh man, Brian, my man with the plan here. Love it. Okay, Cheryl, someone taking their deal. No buyer. Oh man, you guys are awesome. I knew I didn't have to jump in. You guys are so smart. So guys, if you know as a wholesaler that this is their concern, wouldn't it make sense if you found a deal that you want to work with that says no wholesalers? Wouldn't it make sense to address this stuff up front? Right? So, hey, I'm assuming the reason why you put no wholesalers because you don't want to work with a standard wholesaler out there that is just going to waste your time, lock up the deal, and you're going to run out of time and you're going to have to drop it, right? So here's the thing. This is why most wholesalers in the area work with me. I have a large buyers list, and I can pretty much move anything if the numbers make sense. Would you be open to doing a JV? I have actually some buyers that are in my mind right now on my list that might be interested, that I feel might be interested in this deal. It's a great opportunity, right? You gotta display confidence, guys. Confidence is key, right? The more confident they can hear in your voice that you can move the deal, the more of a chance that you're going to have of working with them, right? But the less confidence you sound, if you're like, hey, I'm reaching out to you because no wholesalers. Are you open to? No, you probably wouldn't be open to J. No, are you open to JVing on this? I could possibly have a buyer. I'm not sure. No, they're going to say, go kick rocks, right? So you want to be confident when you're talking to people, because if you're confident, they're going to have confidence in you. Ooh, Diana Gonzalez. She
I was just going to say Diana and Coy.
I love it. Find your buyer first. Exactly. Guys, things are so much easier when you use the FYBF method. Find your buyer first.
The reason why wholesalers are posting that property in Facebook groups in the first place is because they didn't find their buyers first. Okay.
Exactly.
So they were posting there, no wholesalers, no whatever. They're scrambling to sell a deal that they don't have a buyer for. So reach out to them and say, hey, I understand what you're saying. You don't want people daisy chain this and all that, but I've built a good buyers list. If you need help moving this deal, let's talk.
Yeah.
Right. And we can JV on it, but I'm not daisy chaining it. I'll send it direct to my buyers. I'm not going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to email it to my buyers list if you want to do something.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've had so many people here's the thing. There's a lot of wholesalers out there that do business the wrong way. Like they will take someone's deal without their permission, and they'll say they're a buyer, and then they blast it out all over everywhere. And before you know it, I'm getting my own deal sold back to me for $15,000 more than I have it for out there. And I'm like, dude, this is my deal. Like, what?
Have you ever bought it back just because you like their pitch or anything? Like their sales pitch is so strong.
Thing. I love your pitch. So I'll take it. There's a movie that came out a long time ago. It was called Sell Hard, I think it was, with Jeremy Piven. And there was this type of sale they had in the car business that if you could get if someone would sell you their car, then you could get them to buy it back or something like that. It had this name for it. It was so funny, so funny.
Yeah,
There's
a video clip of that. I don't know what the movie is, but it's Danny DeVito, and he sells the owner.
I know what that is. That's not Surviving Christmas, but that's one of the Deck the Halls. That is one of our favorite Christmas movies.
That's funny.
That was so funny.
We got a question from Brian here. Is there a starting shoe on a shoestring dialer you have used, like a good affordable dialer?
Yeah. So the most affordable dialer that I found is one that I can post in the comments here. It's the one that we use. Actually, give me 1 second. Yeah, let me post this in the comments. You guys can have it. And what it'll actually do is I'll give you guys 50% off your first month with a 7-day free trial and 600 free minutes with it, and you can check it out.
That's a good deal.
Give me 1 second. I'll pull this up. Okay, cool. Here it is right here. Whoops.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna answer George's question here, and you can answer it too. But George, there's no book that's going to help you overcome that fear. What's
just action.
Help, just doing it is what's gonna do it. I started years ago. I started working for what you guys probably know is like Quicken Loans or Rocket Mortgage, but it was the owner, Dan Gilbert, also owned a company called Rock Financial Mortgage Company. And when I started working there, and I'd already had experience in sales and mortgage, but when I started working there, I was in a group of probably close to 100 people, and they had us practice calls for 5 weeks before they would even let us near a real phone call coming in, right?
That's great.
Because they knew, over the course of 5 weeks, so we did other things too, but over the course of 5 weeks, they could teach us how to be very comfortable on the phone and follow their script and do all those things.
Yep.
And it was repetition, and that's it. You want to get good at something, you would do it over and over and over again. Right?
100%.
Record yourself, listen to the call, which is uncomfortable, but see where you kind of sound funny or screwed up, and do it better the next time, and then do it better the next time, and just keep doing it, right? You're recording your calls anyway. Just listen to them, critique yourself, do the next one, right?
100%.
And before you know it, you're comfortable listening to your voice, which everybody hates. You're comfortable making calls and all that, but there's no secret sauce. There's no other than just doing it.
Yep. And guys, the dialer is batchdialer.com/VWMS, as in virtual wholesaling made simple. So batchdialer.com/VWMS. And if you use the coupon code VWMS along with the link, then you'll get 50% off your first month. And the dialer is $139 a month. So it doesn't get any better than that.
There you guys go. All right. Okay, Perez got a big question here for you. I'm going to let you go with that one.
Mm-hmm. Starting a wholesale business, which team should you initially start hiring besides your cold caller, and what tips can you share in order to hire a quality team? Oh, this is great. So there's a lot of learning that goes into hiring, right? Hiring is an art form itself, right? And so here's the path that you want to take. So you want to do the business yourself, right? Wholesale yourself until, let me back up for a minute. So the first hire that you should make, okay, is the task that takes up the most of your time, but doesn't generate like immediate money for yourself, right? So if that person is, in most cases, that's an executive assistant. So that's someone like a VA, a $2 to $3 an hour VA that can do a lot of the admin stuff for you to free up your time, like the downloading the list, the skip tracing of the list, the uploading it to the dialer, right? The pulling more lists, those types of things. Like there's a lot of things that a VA can do. You want to hire one like part-time that can do those things for you, so you don't have to get bogged down in that like many steps, right? After you have that person, the next person that would be a great person to hire would be a cold caller, but after you've cold called yourself, right? Because you want to get comfortable cold calling yourself before you hire one, so you can get good on the phone, you can know what to look for, and you can grow from there, right? Once you're at 3 deals a month, consistently yourself, right? At that point, it's good to hire what I like to call a real estate sales position. Okay. Some people call this an acquisition manager. That's someone who's going to talk to sellers, make offers for you, get properties under contract, and so on. Understand that when you hire one of those, okay, you want to be in a good position financially because you're going to take a step back when you first hire one, right? I would love to tell you the stars all align, it's sunshine and rainbows and money falls from the sky just because you hired somebody. But in a lot of cases, you take a step back because they're not as good as you, right? So you have to train them. And then there's going to be a point where you're going to get past that season, that person's going to be good, or you're going to replace them, one of the two. But you're going to find somebody that's going to be good. And then from there, things will slowly start getting back up to where you were doing it. Your deal volume will start to increase a little bit. Maybe they end up being better than you were. And things really start to grow. Okay. Once you're at 5 deals a month or more, we have 5 to 7 deals in the pipeline at any given point in time, you're going to hire someone to sell your deals. Right. And then that's really the path that you want to take. And again, your assistant, as you grow along that, they're going to turn more into like a marketing assistant where they're going to be, again, downloading your lists, skip trading your lists and uploading them for you and all that. But with wholesaling, guys, I've had a team I've had almost 35 people on our team before, right? And notice I said had. I don't have a large operation like that anymore with 35 people because I've realized in wholesaling, you want to keep it small, keep it all. Get yourself to 7 figures with a small team, right? And keep it like that and then stack cash and then use that cash to like build your long-term wealth, buy properties, invest for the long term. And that's the direction. You don't want to scale this to 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't care what anybody else says. Anytime I peek behind the curtain of one of those operations, it's not pretty. So don't believe the YouTube videos. Just trust me when I say in wholesaling, keep it small, keep it all. And again, get to 7 figures and then don't scale much beyond that. Just,
unless
cash.
Unless you like misery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't get this vision in your head like I'm going to lease an office and a sky rise and I'm going to have all these cubicles and people working for me and all that. That's crazy. I mean,
keep the overhead low.
You're trying to get out of the 9 to 5 and make a better life. And that's not a better life. Right. No. What Chris and I do is a better life. That's just making more problems for yourself, right?
I didn't leave an office to go back to work in an office. And it's so funny. People get into real estate for financial freedom and they're like, I'm going to buy an office. And it's like, dude, you left.
Or have a big payroll, get into HR, we're going to buy computers for everybody,
Yeah, that's just crazy.
No.
So Cheryl says if they can't sell you, could possibly do a lease option and give them a cut for it. Again, my thing, guys, is focusing on one thing, right? Some people want to be transactional engineers and have 15 different strategies. That doesn't work for me. Maybe that works for some people, but I like to stay focused and on one strategy and run that for 12 to 18 months until got it down. And then at that point, when you can hand that off to somebody else so it runs, you can start buying stuff for the long term. But lease options can be great. There's a lot of great people that teach it, but I'd encourage you to pick one strategy.
Yeah. Do what? I did that in the mortgage business. I'd have people coming in and they wanted to do, like a self-employed thing with all their tax returns, or another one wanted to use, grants to buy their house and stuff. I just stuck with regular 30-year fixed, right? The easy one, W-2 employee and all that. And when I would get some weird stuff, I would give it to somebody else. I'd be like, hey, I'm too busy. Can you handle this?
Yeah.
And I'd throw them the weird crap.
No, absolutely. Because I was
leveraging
their experience. So maybe partner, like Dave said, partner with someone who does these options. So if it's not good for a cash offer, hand it off to them, let them do the work. You split the money.
Somebody be better at it than you and let them refer it. Right.
Yeah. So Derek asked a really good question. Can we hop to Derek's real quick? So we're running out of time, but this is a really good question. So Derek, thank you for asking this. So much has been asked, seems to be asking questions geared toward later down the road. What should we start doing immediately today after this is over? So what you should start doing today, Derek, I love this. Man, I wish I had some type of bell or something I could jingle here. Your mindset's in the right spot. What I want you to do is I want you to plot out your schedule for the day. And I want you to time block your activities for growing a cash buyers list and calling sellers. Right? Plot out those times. If you need to make some adjustments in your work schedule to do that, go to your boss and ask them if you can come in early and leave earlier, right? Do that. Maybe if that's not possible, maybe you virtual wholesale in another state that is behind you a few hours of time zone so you can buy some time, right, to work at home. That's what you want to do. You want to do that and then immediately start cold calling. I love cold calling because it's the easiest way and the fastest way to get in touch with sellers, and you can do it today. You can set up a dialer, buy a list, upload it, boom. You are talking with sellers right then and there. If you don't have a list, you can go online to FSBO Properties, fsbo.com, forsalebyowner.com, look for properties within 25 to 50 miles of your target area, and then call. Those are the sellers. They're people that want to sell, believe it or not. A lot of people think FSBOs don't work. They actually do. Let's say Perez says, Chris, phenomenal breakdown advice. I want a better life too. I've been there with leasing offices. Thanks. 100%, man. Yeah. 100%. See, the people that have been there, they know. They know.
I did that in mortgage. I was working for SunTrust Mortgage, and they made me a producing sales manager, they called it, where I had like 10 people under me. And I spent so much time managing them and helping them. My production went like that. And I'm like, 100%. I want out of this. So I put me back. I just want to be a salesman again. Like I did enough of managing people, right? It was horrible.
Yeah. I love that. Love that. And by the way, guys, if any of you on here have loved what we've gone over today and you'd like to take next steps, and maybe you're just looking for a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more attention, and you want to know exactly what it takes to get you where you want to go, guys, what I'd encourage you to do is apply for coaching here. I don't take on everybody, okay, because I have limited capacity. But if you fill out the form on this page and I like what you have to say, I'll consider bringing you on as a client, and I look forward to connecting. But that is the best way for you to take steps right now towards that better life that you want. If you're looking for ways that you can do more with your schedule and time, and you need someone to help you slice and dice that to get you to where you want to be, I'd love to have a conversation, see if coaching is a good fit.
All right, guys. Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple.com. Right?
Yep. Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple.com. And then Perez over here, great questions, great nuggets. Would love to it if we can get access to recording the sessions. Really enjoying this today. Awesome.
All right. Perez, if you are in the Wholesaling Partners group right there, go there, join up if you're not already in there. I think you are, but if you're not, go in there and join up, and I will post the replay in the group for everybody to watch. Yeah,
Brian, Derek, Perez, and anybody else who got a lot of value today, go ahead and reach out to me on Facebook, or like I said, apply for coaching. I'd love to talk with you and see if coaching is a good fit.
All right. Great advice today. Chris, I appreciate it. It's good stuff.
No problem. This was fun, guys. Man, Dave, the reason why I love doing events with you and doing these podcasts is because, you have such an amazing audience. All these guys asking all these smart questions. I love it. Barbara, thanks, Dave and Chris. You're welcome. I love that. And it's always a blast, right? It's always tough as a coach or a speaker, and you're coming on here and, people don't really ask questions. No one's acting really interested, and it's like crickets, but that never happens to your group, Dave. You keep it exciting, and you've built a phenomenal community here. And
listen, guys, with Chris and I both, it might not always be sexy, but it's going to be the truth, right? We'll just tell you. I'm like that, and I think that's why I resonate with Chris so much, is because it's value first. We want you to know the real deal, and we don't care how you get there. We just want you to do it the right way. So
100%.
All right, guys.
Love it.
Thank you. Join the group. Join wholesalingpartners.com. If you want to get in there and get the replay, reach out to Chris if you want to talk to him about coaching. Right?
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.
See you guys later.